And hello, welcome once again to what I affectionately call our information sessions with Dr. Scott Elliott, Superintendent of Watauga County Schools. I'm Kenneth Reese, the founder, owner, and operator of WataugaOnline.com, and we are going to touch on a subject today that really we first discussed back in March. And this is a byproduct, I guess you will, of COVID 19, talking about remote learning, but this time, how will remote learning play into our winter weather days for the Watauga County school system? So, first things first, it's very appropriate we're talking about this today. We are expecting our first snowfall to some degree of the season. This is being recorded on Monday, November 30th, and we are expecting current rain to change over to snow maybe this afternoon, but later tonight through the overnight and tomorrow. Dr. Elliott, I hope I don't jinx that by meaning that we'll have our first snow day on Tuesday, December the 1st, but we may very well. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Kenneth, it's always good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's hop right into it. Remote learning, snow days. How will snow days be different now? We touched on it the last time that we had a little information session, even though this was not the topic. And one of the things you mentioned right off the bat was probably the end of Saturday school.
That's right. So, Kenneth, 2020 has just been a different kind of year, and people have endured so much. And so much of what we have talked about for months now has been about how we manage COVID and getting students back into school and keeping our schools healthy and safe. And a lot of the things that we've talked about have changed or evolved over time, and I just appreciate everyone's flexibility with us. If there is a silver lining to this year and to the lessons that we have learned from COVID and remote instruction, it is that we can make better use of remote instruction on snow days in order to keep learning continuing for our students, and so that we don't have to make up as many days. As we talked about back in March, and over the summer when we've discussed this, the North Carolina legislature passed a change to the school calendar law for just this year, requiring 5 remote learning days be built into the calendar. We've already used one of those days for Election Day, and it went very, very smoothly. And now we have at least 4 additional days that we can use, so that, as you said, hopefully we can eliminate Saturday school, and hopefully we can prevent any changes to our Christmas breaks or spring breaks, so that families can plan with some confidence about those days, and maybe even be able to keep from making up all of these days in June, so that we can get out at a more reasonable time of the year.
For anyone that may be viewing this that's new to Watauga County, maybe you've just moved here recently, maybe you've been here just in the last year or two. Our winters have been very unique, especially since Dr. Elliott's tenure, because we had a span there, and I believe it was a 5-year span. We missed no days in December, not a single day for those. And there again, I believe it was 5 years straight. And then every year when we came back from the break, we ended up missing at least a week solid. There was one year we missed 2 weeks solid because of ice and snow. So, and the past December though, we did have snow and we missed a few days. December of 2019. I don't know why I had to stop and think about what year that was, because 2020's been so long. So I say all that to now bring it to how will the decision be made for a remote day as opposed to what we have become so familiar with, especially those of us that are from here or lived here for a long time, with the norm, a 1 hour delay, 2 hour delay, or 3 hour delay. How will those changes and decisions be made now?
I appreciate your little bit of history there, and for folks who are locals or longtime residents, know that weather's just tricky up here. As one old
Hmm.
timer told me recently, there are at any one time at least 4 different weather systems going on in Watauga County because of just the diversity of our topography and geography. And I think snow days are frustrating for everyone,
Hmm.
myself included. I want us to be in school. We all want to be in school, and sometimes we miss school. when weather conditions are perfectly fine in parts of the county and not so good in other parts of the county, and it's been that way for a very long time. But our snow day decision-making process in many ways won't change. We're going to try to have school in person wherever possible, but we will get up in the mornings, we'll check the weather forecast, our road team will go out and we'll check our roads early in the morning at 3 and 3:30 in the morning, as we typically do. If we think that we can safely get into school on a 1 hour or 2 hour delay, then that's what we'll do, so that we can have our students in school in person with us. But if we think that that's not possible, then we will either cancel school for the day and use a teacher work day, as we've done in the past, and add a day to later in the school year, or now utilize one of these remote learning days. We have 4 additional days, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to be evaluating how successful we are with these. How engaged are our students? Do we have a lot of absences with students not attending? Are teachers able to convey new content and information? And really, for us to justify using a day of school and not making it up. Now, that said, the calendar will be different. The daily schedule will be different. We can get into that in just a moment, but students will be in school on a remote learning day for about 4.5 hours. So it'll be a lot like the amount of time students would be in school if we had a 2-hour delay, or if we had an early release, or had been on a Saturday school schedule or something like that. The point here is we want to have quality instruction for our students and keep them engaged without missing days that we have to add later in the year. So the decision-making process won't be that different, but we know that we have this extra option now available to us.
And your video glitched there just for a brief second when you were talking about how many hours the kids would be in learning, and it's about 4.5 hours, just like it would be if we were on a 2 or 3 hour delay.
Yeah, so let's get into that if you don't mind.
Yes, by all means.
Yeah, so by now, most parents should have received emails from their teachers. I know this morning even I've received another email from one of my children's teachers reminding me of what the remote learning or inclement weather remote learning day schedule will be like. So it's important to also remember that we're in this 2x3 cohort model right now. So for our students who would be in school on the day that we have remote learning, and for our Watauga Virtual Academy students who would be in school at that time, instruction will start at 10 a.m. And the schedule will be different for K-8 versus the high school. The high school will operate on their 2-hour delay schedule. That's what high school students need to realize, is there'll just be one schedule, a 2-hour delay schedule that they will follow. And so at 10 or at 10:30, depending on the grade level, students will go online to their Google Meets. They'll have invitations from their teachers, and they'll follow their schedule. They'll have time to take a break for lunch whenever their lunch time would normally be. Then they'll pick back up with their classes and end by 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. So there'll still be plenty of time for students to enjoy a snow day, go outside in the morning, sled, build a snowman, take a break at lunch, have time after school. We know that snow days are also a special time for kids and families, but we want the learning to continue. A real easy thing to do is to just go to our website, wataugaschools.org, and up in the top right-hand corner of the website, we put a new link for remote virtual learning. And when you click on that, over on the toolbar to the left, there should be a site that you can go to that has the daily schedule and more information about what school should look like. So we also know, Kenneth, that a lot of our students still don't have internet access where they live. And so in anticipation of inclement weather or snow days, we are also asking our teachers, our students, and our parents to work together to prepare materials for those students to take home and to work on while they're at home.
Yeah, I was just while you were talking about that too, I just went to the school's website and have found that link, and it lays it out there for you: inclement weather, remote learning days, parent information. And so by all means, go there and check that out. Familiarize yourself with it, because to some degree, and obviously you have thought this out. This is not something you just woke up last week and said, "Oh, we're going to do." I mean, you mentioned before, you and I have talked about this various times since March in relation to COVID, but how will it work in winter weather? but still to some degree, it will be a bit of a learning process, a learning curve for all of us, especially those of us, maybe all of us, like I said, that are used to the traditional 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour delay or no school at all. So, parents, and guardians, I just remind you that there will be a little bit of a learning curve for us, the parents and guardians too. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind.
Thank you for saying that, Kenneth. So we've learned a lot, since March. I mean, how many things have you and I sat here and discussed since March that turned out to change?
Hmm.
But we are optimistic about this. I did work in my former school district 7, 8 years ago to develop a snow day plan. They miss far fewer days of school than us, and their plan not exactly like this. But what they found in implementing it is that it changed and improved with every time that they used it. And even now, I was talking to their superintendent recently, it's even improving based on their experience with remote instruction through COVID. So whereas we've not been able to do this in the past because we didn't have enough computers for our students. We've not
Hmm.
been a one-to-one computer district until we needed to purchase all of these extra computers for COVID. Also, the school system has provided over 200 Wi-Fi hotspots for internet access for students who can use them where they live, but who don't have internet access. Um, so there have been a lot of things that in the past that have kept us from being able to utilize this that now we've solved because of COVID. Again, a silver lining, but there will still be some learning curves in terms of, the schedule and students logging on and those routines. But I'm hoping that our experience back from August through October will mean that it'll be a little bit smoother way to start for us moving forward. We hope that we wouldn't need to use that so soon, but as you said, we have some winter weather in the forecast. So I would just encourage everyone, if you're viewing this today or whenever you are, go to that website. Or if you haven't gotten any information, email your child's teachers and find out what you need to do in the event that we have a remote learning day.
For our viewers, I will give you just a little bit of background on what Dr. Elliott was talking about. He came to us from the Transylvania County School District. They are down in the southwestern part of North Carolina, right there at the Virginia border and not too far, or Tennessee border, and not too far away from the Georgia border, I
That's
guess,
right.
right? So,
That's right.
so that's when he references his past school district. They have had some experience with snow days, and they do have snow days, but typically not as many as we do here in the high country.
That's right.
So anything else on? I think that answers most of the questions I had. I know on social media, a lot of folks were already thinking that anytime it snows, well, that'll be a remote learning day automatically. Again, that will not be the case. Every attempt will be made, just like it is during a non-COVID year, to have school in person. The biggest difference will be, you know, what kind of storm we have. Is it one of those storms that we know is coming a couple of days in advance, a fairly good sized storm? Is it an event like may happen overnight tonight? I mean, we're expecting a trace to maybe 1, 2 inches, maybe in the low lying areas. The higher elevations, some of those folks, Beach Mountain, they may get up to 5 to 6 inches possibly. So this is one of those typical winter storms that will vary greatly depending on where you are in the high country. Um,
That's
but
right.
again, back what I was saying before, parents and guardians don't automatically assume that because snow is in the air, hey, it'll be a remote learning day. And it's a good thing to tell the kids that too, because, that reminds me as a kid when we had to dial in to a telephone number to find out what schools, were going to do.
Right.
Of course, there was no internet back then. And as kids, man, I mean, we seen a snow flurry and we would automatically think, hey, there'll be no school tomorrow. And we would want to stay up all night long. Kids are no different now. They'll want to do the same thing. And then when it's time to remote learn the next day, you're going to have some yawning kids. And so it's important, parents and guardians too, to talk with your child, especially if they're in those middle school grades and up, and explain to them what's going on too.
That's right. Yeah, we want our students to stay engaged. We've already lost so much time with school this year because of COVID that we want to keep the learning going. And while it's fun to build snowmen and eat snow cream, my favorite, and do all those things that the kid in us wants to do when we see snow, there'll still be plenty of time for that. But let's also keep it in perspective. It will be nice to have a full Christmas break. It will be nice to
Yes.
know that we can probably keep our spring break. It'll be nice to know that maybe if this is effective, that we won't be going to school till the middle of June. That said, these remote learning snow days will not replace all 15 to 20 of the days that we miss in a given year. But again, I'm going to be interested to see how effective they are and how well they're used. Folks will still get a phone call or an email from us letting folks know what kind of day that we're having, or if there's any change to our schedule. You can always go to that website. Kenneth, you asked me if there was anything else I wanted to share, not specifically about remote learning on snow days, but I just want to say again, we're working so hard to keep our schools healthy and safe. We've been fortunate that we have not seen a lot of transmission in our schools, but we're certainly being affected by it. Coming out of Thanksgiving, and I hope everyone had a restful Thanksgiving break, I just ask everyone to continue to be vigilant with wearing the mask, social distancing, monitoring for symptoms, keeping your children home. And our challenge right now is to just maintain a healthy staff so that we can continue to keep our schools open, which is what we're working hard to try to do right now.
Yeah, and it's very much worth pointing out that even though our numbers here in the county have gone down, in some respects stayed consistent with some of the low numbers, especially the deaths and the active cases. It's important to know, though, still in North Carolina, the numbers keep going up and alarmingly keep going up. And that is another reason why, too, unfortunately, that's going to delay going back to in-person schooling full time. And then nationwide, too, the numbers are just absolutely blowing up. Los Angeles took a drastic measure over the weekend. I think starting today, they're even wanting to limit folks going to other people's houses. Like if you want to go to your friend's house, like they basically don't want you to do that now. So it's important to keep in mind, though, that here in the Watauga, our numbers are staying consistent, fairly low, and we want to try to keep it that way.
One of my great athletic coaches growing up said, control the controllables, control what you can control.
Yep.
And so we can control, our own behavior and safety precautions. And I just ask, everyone to do everything to help keep our community healthy and safe, and help keep our schools open. So thanks, Kenneth, for helping us to get out this information.
You're welcome. I got one more quick question, probably goes without saying, but obviously if schools are closed because of winter weather or a remote learning day, we'll call it, I need to start working on my phrasing of that because technically the schools won't be closed.
It's new language. Yeah,
it is. It really is. How this is pretty much common sense, but I'm going to ask you anyway, how will that affect lunch distribution? Or do we know, will it be a day by day? Obviously it'll have to be a day by day call, right?
It will be a day by day call, and we'll continue to try to make lunches available curbside for our families that need it. But also keep in mind that we also have the safety of our staff in mind.
Yeah.
So we also want to be careful of asking those cafeteria staff members to come in if we close schools. So it may just be a day by day decision that we make, and if folks are depending on those meals, to maybe call ahead to the school and find out if they're open for distribution. But we'll do everything we can possibly to keep those meals being served.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. There's also an article on WataugaOnline.com that I'll reference to that the schools released back on November 23rd that talks about this, but wanted to get Dr. Elliott on here for one of our videos because they seem to be real popular. We appreciate the positive feedback from you, the viewers. And hey, get ready for winter. The season begins today, Monday, November 30th. And again, Dr. Elliott, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Kenneth.
All right, folks, until next time, I'm Kenneth Reese, founder, owner, operator of WataugaOnline.com. Stay safe, wear your mask, social distance, and enjoy this first snow of the season coming up, no matter if it's just some flurries, a trace, or maybe 5 or 6 inches up in those higher elevations. Until next time, have a great rest of the day.